Well, Heidi ho, my friends, and all of my beautiful peeps. Those of you who have been following me recently know that I have been doing some adventures in vegan cooking here recently. I've spent a lot of time on YouTube, and today I want to show you how I make vegan pot stickers or spring rolls. I couldn't get the pot sticker pastry at the store. They didn't have it, so I'm using the spring roll pastry instead. But essentially it's the same thing. Well, actually the spring roll pastry has fewer calories than the other, but either one would work fine. So for those of you who have had Portuguese food, Filipino food, this is very much like lumpia, which is a little rolled, sort of a little egg roll kind of thing that the Filipinos make. So it's kind of got all those elements. It starts with firm tofu that gets drained and all the water squeezed out so that you can so that you can turn it into a crumble. This gets sauteed, this tofu gets sauteed with some garlic. Now, this is a third of the amount of garlic I would normally use, but this is all I have left over fresh. So I'm going to use this up and augment it with some garlic powder that I make myself. So you will saute the tofu with garlic, a little bit of ginger, about this big, and white onion. In this case I have shallots, and then a little bit of the green onion as well. So this all gets chopped, sauteed with the tofu. Then once you've done that, it is time to season your crumble. Now, the original recipe that I found used only the dark soy sauce, which I've never used before. It's real thick soy sauce. I think must be a reduction. This happens to be mushroom flavor. And then either tamari or regular soy sauce. So you use both of these sauces in the flavoring, and a little bit of potato starch. And that's it. That's all that the original recipe called for before letting that all cool and wrapping it up in here and cooking it. Now, I'm extra always, and I love the taste of seafood. So I decided I was going to go for a much more umami taste and try to bring out a seafood flavor in these little dumplings. So what I did, first of all, oh yeah, I forgot. You also put water chestnuts. This is open because I used half of this can for my first batch. So that's also part of the vegetables. So what I did is I looked around at my local Asian grocery stores and I found some things to use for seasoning. First of all, I got some fish sauce, which is basically fermented anchovy sauce. I use a scant half teaspoon, between a quarter and a half a teaspoon. Well, no, I take that back. I use a scant quarter teaspoon of this stuff in my mixture. That is so strong, and it imparts a fishy flavor with just a tiny little amount. Then I add some crab paste. I use a full tablespoon of crab paste because I have been craving crab so badly. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of the vegan realm and make it more of a pescatarian dish. So I use those two a little bit, and then this is the secret right here. This is the stuff that I did not think I was going to even find in town, but I did. It is a granulated dried mushroom seasoning. It can be used to season stocks and soup and, all different sorts of things. And it really is the key taste to making this whole thing come together. I'll give you the amounts and everything in the down bar as well as I'm putting this together. But I wanted to show you all of the ingredients all in one collection. So you make it up your filling and you saute it and you season it, and then it gets rolled in these little spring roll pastries. And then comes the fun part. I don't fry these and I don't boil these or steam them. I put them in my air fryer. And the trick to making them come out wonderfully luscious is to use just a little bit, the tiniest little bit of oil on them. And so what I do is I spray 10 sprays of this oil mixture that I create and use. It's made from avocado oil and toasted sesame oil. So I always keep this on hand because I do a lot of Asian style or Asian recipe cooking. So anything with the toasted sesame really adds to that. So I will spray 10 sprays of this, which is 1 full tablespoon, and then I will take and lightly rub it on my little dumplings, a little bit on both sides. I don't spray it on, I don't spoon it on. I take my finger and dip it in the oil and then just lightly rub it. Because you don't need much, just a little bit will give you that crusty wonderfulness. So that is how you do it, and you put it on in the air fryer. I do a dozen at a time for 10 minutes. Now, let me show you the ingredients for the dipping sauce, which I actually call dribble sauce, because you don't want to dip into this stuff or you're going to get just calories up one side and down the other. It's real simple. You just take 2 tablespoons of the sweet chili sauce, a tablespoon of the hot chili sauce, and you add a half a teaspoon of the dark soy sauce and a tablespoon of the tamari or soy sauce, and you mix that together, and that creates your dribble sauce. And all I do is I lay these little things out on a plate, all 12 of them, and I take and I spoon half of the mixture, I dribble it over the top, and then once the others come out of the air fryer, I do the same thing. So in a nutshell, that is how these things are made. Now I'm going to actually show you. Although I don't have a tofu press, I should probably get one. But until then, the way I drain my tofu is I crumble it in my nice clean hand, and then I will take and push it against the sides of my colander. And the water will squeeze out through those holes and drain, and it will make the tofu nice and fluffy and not bogged down with a bunch of water. And that's basically what you want. So, get out your tofu press, or do this, or do whatever method you do to get that water out of the tofu. Then you're just going to set this aside and saute the vegetables next. Okay, I've got all of my vegetables chopped. Again, this is only 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to add garlic powder, but you adjust this to your own taste. If you don't like a lot of garlic, go light on it. This is the ginger all chopped up here, green onion, and then this is the shallot. Now, regarding the onion part, the recipe originally calls for a medium to large white onion. I used 2 small onions in my last batch, and then I didn't have any onions left, so I decided I would just go ahead and use this shallot. Now, well, these shallots, there are 2, and they were big ones. So the guy who from whose channel I stole this recipe it's called Yeung Man Cooking. He is oh man, I'm not sure if he's Korean. Anyway, he's a lovely Asian man, and a chef, obviously. I mean, he really knows what he's doing. So anyhow, I better let that heat up before I do anything else. So anyhow, he uses a lot of shallots in his cooking, so I figured that would be fine as a substitute. And speaking of substitutes, you can use whatever you want. You could put carrot in here, or potato, or hot chili, whatever it is that you're into that you want. This is what he used, so I'm using the same thing as well. Now, I did chop up my water chestnuts. They're ready to be thrown into the mix once it has sauteed. I also have a little bit of water here just in case this dries out too quickly before the onions get, you know, that translucent color. So I am going to go back to stirring and sauteing. Incidentally, when I first started the saute, I had about a half a cup of water in the bottom of my skillet. I always use my cast iron skillet, almost always. Anyhow, that seemed to be drying out pretty quickly, so I put another maybe 3/4 of a cup, and I think by the time this, you know, all simmers down, that will be just about the right amount of water. So I ended up, like I said, using just a bit more than 1 cup of water to do the saute. Now, while this thing is sauteing, I wanted to mention that I am a very ugly chopper. You know how some women complain that they're ugly criers? I am an ugly chopper. I get those vegetables all over the kitchen. They end up on the floor, flipping around, getting in the dog's bowl. Just, I can't elegantly cut vegetables to save my life. So I didn't show you that part of my embarrassment. I just struggled through till I got it to look like this and then set it on for the saute portion. All right, so we're looking good on the saute. The onions are beginning to become translucent. There's about a half a cup of water left down in the skillet, so I'm going to add the tofu. Now, you'll notice that I am sauteing this in water. You don't have to. If you want the extra oil or flavor or whatever, just go ahead and use a couple tablespoons of oil instead of the water. But I am trying to cut down the calories on this as much as I possibly can. So I figured, you know, that eliminates 100 calories per dozen on this recipe. So I figured it was smart. So now I'm going to go ahead and saute the tofu with the vegetables for another 5 to 7 minutes. Once your scramble has dried out to where there's just a little bit of, you can see when you move it over, there's just a little bit of liquid left. That's when you want to add your seasonings. And what we're doing is a tablespoon of the tamari or soy sauce if you choose, 3 teaspoons of, I'm using mushroom flavored dark soy sauce, but I think any dark soy sauce will do. I'm using a half a teaspoon of the fish sauce, which is twice as much as I used last time, but I really like that taste of fish, so I'm upping it in this batch. And then I added 1 tablespoon of this crab paste with bean oil. Now that's all going to go in. Don't worry, I'm going to use my spatula to get the rest of that out. And I'm going to go ahead and finish sauteing it until the mixture seems, you know, relatively dry. Our mixture now looks sufficiently dry. I turned off the heat. See, that looks pretty good. I've dumped in my water chestnuts and then 1 heaping tablespoon of potato starch, which I probably forgot to mention earlier. And the potato starch, you'll want to put it in definitely when your filling is still hot, because that will help the potato starch to bind up in the mixture, and it will allow your filling to stick together better when you go to to put it into the wrappers. It'll be a little bit easier to handle, won't roll all over the place. So once I get all of this nice and folded in, and I think I'm about, well, maybe not, I'm getting there. Anyhow, I'm gonna stir this for a bit longer, and then I'm going to put it into this bowl. It's important that you use a bowl that has slanted sides because you're going to press the mixture up against the sides so that it will cool more easily. So let's do that. The last thing we will add once we've got our seasoning in the bowl is about a tablespoon or so of this mushroom seasoning, the stuff that was just so hard for me to find anywhere. So there it is. You can see it's a little, kind of a little granular substance. I'm going to go ahead and get this all nicely mixed and then press the mixture up along the side of the bowl, which will allow it to cool more quickly. Okay, so you'll see that I have pressed my mixture up against the sides of the bowl. What that does is it flattens it out nicely and allows it to cool more quickly. So I'm going to set this aside and clean up my prep area and get ready for the almighty rolling of the dumpling. Our filling, there it is, has completely cooled, and we are now ready to do the roll up in the spring roll pastries. Technically I should keep this covered with a wet cloth, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I've pulled out I guess 6 of the wrappers, and this is how I do it. So I lay the wrapper down like that. I've got my camera slung around my phone slung around my neck, so I don't know how well this is going to work. So anyhow, then what I do is I just take a little bit of water and I wet it down with water, because water is what will make the wrapper stick to itself once you've got it full. Then I take a little bit of the filling. I'm not sure how much this is. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be about a tablespoon, I'm thinking. Then you want to sort of bunch it up there at the far end of your wrapper. You'll take and wrap forward till the edge meets the inside. Then at this point you're going to want to fold in the sides like so. And then I will often take just a little bit more water, tap it down there, and roll it forward. And you have your first little spring roll. Then I just simply line them up here on my magic cutting board that you guys have already seen. I need to draw the winner for this cutting board tomorrow. I should have done it today, but I'll draw it tomorrow. We'll find out who won from the giveaway. And so then I just wrap them up and line them up until I have a dozen wrapped up and ready to go. Let's do one more. So take and I guess you could use a little brush or something if you want to do whatever. I just grab a little water on my hand. That seems to work well. And about a tablespoon of the filling. And kind of use your hands to sort of make it form into a nice cohesive little lump that sticks together. Then you roll it forward till the edge touches the center. Then you roll in the sides like that. Fold them in like you were making a burrito. Again, I add a little bit more water. I really like the extra water. And then I continue rolling it up, and it is, you know, kind of self-sealing there. And that's dumpling number 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish this and get back to you. Now, before putting them in the air fryer, this is an optional step. I will take my little dumpling, and this is just some oil, about a tablespoon of oil down in this little bowl. And I just dip my finger in it and just rub the outside very lightly, hardly any oil at all. But that does make a big difference in how crispy they get. Then I put them down into my air fryer, which I have already prepped up with a little spray of cooking oil. I mean, you know, spray oil. So what do you call that? I guess you call it spray oil. Anyhow, so that's ready to go. So this is just, you don't have, like I said, you don't have to do this. I'm going to though. And this is an aside, but you'll see that I have my air fryer basket down here sitting on the open oven door. That's part of my the new ergonomics of my life, where I try to spend as little time standing to save my knees as much as possible. And so what I've done is figured out ways to stay sitting in my little chair and still have access to everything that I need in my kitchen with as few stand up and sit downs as possible. Now, I'm doing pretty good. I can go out and handle go away, dog. I can go out and handle a sorry about that, shopping trip pretty well. In fact, earlier this week, I had to knock the dog off the oven. I did 2 stores in one morning, which was really, see, you just lay him down there, which was really amazing. I just haven't been doing that much recently. So it felt very good to be out, to be on my feet and all that. But I really feel it when I'm done. I can really feel it. And with a little luck, as I gain stamina, which I'm hoping to do, then I will be able to spend less and less time sitting in a little wheelie chair while I cook, and more time on my feet. That's the goal. That's what I'm hoping for. So anyhow, for those of you that do need to stay in a chair, remember some of these creative ways to keep everything at hand. And one of them is to use your open oven door as a shelf. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish getting these into the speck of pepper. Finish getting these into the air fryer and show you what I do next. They're in the air fryer basket, and all I do is set it to 390 degrees and 10 minutes, and let her rip. Now that will preheat and then turn on automatically. 5 minutes through the 10-minute process, I will take the basket out, shake it around real good, and then put it back in to be finished. Take a peeky poo at these things. They turn out crunchy, crispy, and perfectly beautiful. Just so yummy. Now, in order to finish it off, I made my dribble sauce from a tablespoon of hot chili oil, 2 tablespoons of the sweet chili sauce, a tablespoon of tamari, and a teaspoon of the mushroom flavored dark soy sauce. Now, the only thing left to do is take some of this on a spoon and just kind of dribble it. I just want to make sure everything gets a little bit of the sauce, and that way it's actually finished when I go to serve it. I won't have to serve a dipping sauce, and and you won't be, tempted to drink up half of this container of marvelous dipping sauce. And I suppose you could do that had the mind to, you could go ahead and make some memories there, but I think it's probably safer to do it this way. If you're worrying about calories at all. A lot of people aren't, but for those of us who are, this is probably the best and safest way to approach the dipping sauce. And that's probably plenty, and I still have a lot of sauce left, so I'm going to stop it there. Then I'm going to take these and put them in my little glass container here. These I'm going to be taking into town. I want to share them with my son. He will love these. And I'll still have a dozen left to keep at home. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you try this recipe, please tell me if you make any changes to it. Do your own little tweaks. I would love to know. Thanks so much, and I will definitely come back with another recipe.